They set him up to fail, but Donald Trump's retort left the host and his panel completely speechless. The studio hums with quiet tension, cameras roll, the city skyline glows through the glass windows behind the set, but inside all eyes are on the stage. At the center of it sits Julian Reed, a name that commands attention in liberal media. He's built his career on razor-sharp monologues, viral takedowns, and the kind of sarcastic confidence that makes his audience cheer and his opponents squirm. Tonight, he's about to take another shot. Across from him is Donald Trump, the former president, sitting confidently, ready for the fray. The panelists flanking Julian are already exchanging knowing smirks, waiting for the spectacle to begin. Julian leans back in his chair, crossing one leg over the other, fingers tapping against the desk like a drummer counting in the first beat of a performance. "All right, Mr. Trump," he begins, dragging out the name like a teacher, indulging a student who just gave a wrong answer. "Let's cut through the fluff. You're here still claiming to represent the people, yet your policies seem stuck in the past. Are you here to defend outdated ideas, or just to keep your name in the headlines?" A low chuckle ripples across the panel. Someone shifts in their seat, amused. "This is familiar." Julian setting the stage for another routine takedown. Trump doesn't blink. He leans back, hands folded, listening, waiting. He doesn't rush to defend himself. Julian takes that as an opening to push further. "I mean, let's be real," he continues, adjusting his blazer as if settling in. "You love parading around with your claims of making America great again, but at the end of the day, it's the same script. Tax cuts for the rich, walls, and a nostalgia for some mythical past. It's predictable. The only question is, do you believe your own rhetoric?" The camera zooms in. He's smirking. The panelists are watching with thinly veiled amusement. Trump tilts his head, his expression unreadable. He's letting him talk, letting him dig. "Is that a serious question?" he finally asks, voice smooth, unshaken. Julian shrugs, spreading his hands. "Oh, I'm sorry. Did I hit a nerve?" Another chuckle from the panel. The setup is complete. Julian is comfortable, believing this is going exactly the way he planned. But something shifts in Trump's expression, a flicker of something dangerous. Not anger, not nervousness, but certainty. He leans forward, eyes locked on Julian. He's about to make this his worst on-air moment yet, but Julian doesn't know it yet. Julian senses an opportunity. He's been here before. Political figures coming onto his show, trying to hold their own, only to crumble under the weight of his sarcasm and experience. So he leans in, pushes harder. "You know, Mr. Trump," he says, drawing out the name again, "I have to admire your tenacity. It takes real dedication to cling to a party that, let's be honest, seems more interested in division than in progress." The panel erupts in laughter. Even the camera crew chuckles. It's a clean hit. Trump's face doesn't change, not a twitch. Julian notices, but he's convinced Trump's just keeping up a front. He keeps going. "And I have to ask," he continues, feigning curiosity, "do you actually believe what you say, or is this just a long-term grift? You know, say whatever gets you votes, keep the base happy, maybe secure another reality TV show when all this is over." One of the panelists, a journalist from an online progressive outlet, smirks and jumps in. "Let's not forget the classic playbook," she adds, shaking her head. "Find someone divisive, keep them in the news cycle, and hope the chaos distracts from real issues." Honestly, Mr. Trump, do you ever feel like you're just a sideshow to the real work of governing? Another round of laughter. The rhythm of the attack is picking up. Julian sees his chance to land the knockout. "I mean, look at your position. You're out here defending a legacy that's more about tweets than tangible results. Do you see the irony, or are you contractually obligated to ignore it?" The panelist next to him chimes in, laughing. "Come on, Julian, don't be mean. Maybe he actually believes all this." Julian grins. The audience, the cameras, the viewers at home, everyone is watching Trump now, waiting for the inevitable stumble. But Trump still doesn't blink. Instead, he shifts slightly in his seat, straightens his posture, and lets the laughter die out on its own. A full 2 seconds of silence, the energy in the room shifts. The moment is his now. Then he exhales, tilts his head just slightly, and speaks. "Are you finished?" Julian blinks. It's subtle, but the power just shifted. but no one realizes it yet. The laughter dies faster than Julian expected. He was sure he had him. The audience had been on his side. The panel had backed him up. So why does it suddenly feel like he's lost control of the room? Trump leans forward slightly, hands on the table, his expression unreadable. He's not flustered, not angry, just certain. "Are you finished?" he repeats, voice even. Julian forces a chuckle, shaking his head. "Oh, Mr. Trump, don't get all dramatic. It's just—" "No, really," Trump cuts in, his tone calm yet firm. "Are you finished? Because I want to make sure I let you get all your little rehearsed jabs out before I respond." The room tightens. Julian's smirk falters just for a fraction of a second. The panelists shift, the camera crew, suddenly aware that something real is unfolding, instinctively adjust their angles. They weren't expecting this. Trump tilts his head, not smiling, not frowning, just watching. Then he speaks. "See, Julian, this is what you do. You set people up with smug little sound bites, get your panel to laugh, and then expect your guest to stumble, get defensive, or shrink. And usually it works. But here's the problem. You didn't do your homework on me." Julian lets out a dry laugh. "Oh, believe me, Mr. Trump, No, you didn't," Trump interrupts, voice steady. "Because if you had, you'd know I don't fold, and I certainly don't let people like you define me." The room is dead silent now. Julian sits up a little straighter. For the first time, he's not in control. Trump shifts his weight, his voice picking up just enough to cut through the tension. "You call me divisive, a sideshow. You act like I have no achievements, no original thoughts, like I'm just here to repeat the same old lines. But here's the irony. You're the one sticking to a script. You came in here with the same tired attacks, the same predictable insults, because that's all you know how to do. Mock, dismiss, belittle. That's your entire playbook, and yet I'm the one who's supposed to lack vision." A sharp pause. Julian has no immediate response. Trump doesn't give him room to breathe. "You sit there and act like you care about progress, but the second someone challenges your narrative, you mock them. You talk about unity, but if someone doesn't fit your mold, you try to discredit them. You claim to be about the future, but the second someone brings up real accomplishments, you fall right back into the same condescending routine." He leans back finally, a slight smile but not friendly. "You don't want a conversation, Julian. You want a punching bag, and I'm not here to be one." Julian blinks. The panelists look at each other. One of them clears their throat, shifting in their seat. The confidence in the room is gone. The camera zooms in slightly, capturing the rarest thing on a live political show. Actual silence. Trump just flipped the entire dynamic in under 2 minutes, and for the first time in his career, Julian Reed has nothing to say. But the real impact, that's about to come next. For a second, no one speaks. The silence in the studio isn't just awkward, it's heavy. Julian's jaw tightens, but he quickly forces a chuckle, shaking his head like he's still in control. "Wow, Mr. Trump, that was quite the little speech. Did you practice that in the mirror this morning?" A weak attempt at regaining dominance, but it falls flat. The panelists aren't laughing this time. One of them clears their throat and glances at the camera crew as if silently asking, "Are we still live?" Trump doesn't flinch. He just watches him, his confidence unshaken. And then the show cuts to commercial, not because it was planned, not because they wrapped up naturally, but because someone in the control room panicked. The moment the broadcast goes dark, Twitter explodes. Clips from the exchange spread like wildfire. "Holy, Trump just destroyed Julian Reed on live TV. They literally had to cut to commercial. This was a massacre. I've never seen him this speechless before. This is insane." The video racks up millions of views in hours. Even people who don't follow politics are hooked. Liberal commentators scramble to spin the narrative. Some downplay the moment, saying Julian was just letting him talk. Others say Trump was being overly dramatic or just playing the victim. But it doesn't work. The clip speaks for itself. And then things get worse for Julian. The network's inbox is flooded. People demand a response. The ratings from the segment come in, and while they're through the roof, the engagement is brutal. Julian's usual supporters aren't rallying behind him. Instead, some are quietly questioning, Did he actually get outplayed? Why didn't he fire back? Why did they cut to commercial so fast? The panelists who had laughed earlier start distancing themselves. One of them, a journalist from a progressive news outlet, tweets, "To be clear, I don't think Julian was ready for that moment. It was uncomfortable, and cutting to commercial only made it worse," which is the professional way of saying he choked. Julian knows it too, and now he has to make a choice. Double down or do damage control. But either way, the damage is already done. Julian Reed is no stranger to controversy, but this feels different. By the time the show wraps, his phone is already blowing up. Texts from producers, network executives, his PR team, everyone is panicking. He scrolls through Twitter. Every third post is a clip of his face, frozen in silence as Trump dismantles him. Memes are everywhere. Julian Reed, Deepak CI has stopped working. When your entire personality is being smug, but it backfires. The moment he realized Trump wasn't playing defense, the clip is on every major news site before he even leaves the studio. The narrative, Julian Reed gets humiliated on live television. He slams his phone down. This isn't just bad, this is career-threatening. His producer calls, "We need a statement." Damage control is standard in media, but this time they're scrambling. The plan, frame it as Julian being gracious, giving Trump a platform to share his perspective. Minutes later, his PR team puts out a tweet from his account, "Great conversation tonight with Donald Trump. We don't always agree, but these discussions are important for democracy. Looking forward to more debates like this." No one buys it. The replies are brutal. "Dude, you got cooked. Just take the L. Why are you pretending you let this happen? You got wrecked. This is the PR equivalent of pretending you meant to trip on stage." The network isn't happy, not because of the viral moment, but because of how bad he looked. One executive schedules an emergency meeting. There's talk of restructuring the panel format to avoid another disaster like this. A leaked email circulates online. It's from an unnamed producer at the network. "We should have cut to commercial sooner. This was a disaster." The leak only makes things worse. Now people know the commercial break wasn't routine, it was a panic move. Julian Reed was losing so badly they had to pull the plug, and now everyone is talking about it. Meanwhile, Trump is doing nothing. No frantic tweets, no press statements, no victory lap. Just a single post on his account. Let people say what they want. The truth always speaks for itself. The simplicity of it makes it hit even harder. And by the next morning, it's Julian Reed's reputation that's hanging in the balance. But the true impact, that's about to hit even harder. By the next morning, Julian Reed is everywhere, but not in the way he's used to. Cable news shows are analyzing the moment. Political commentators, both left and right, are picking apart why he failed. Some liberal hosts try to downplay it. "It wasn't that bad, he just let him talk too long." But others aren't so kind. This is what happens when you get too comfortable attacking people instead of debating them. The real hit, though, comes from late-night comedians. One show plays the clip, pausing right on Julian's stunned silence. Folks, this is the look of a man realizing his entire personality is collapsing in real time. The audience roars with laughter. Even his own fans can't spin this one. Some try, but the replies bury them under a pile of memes and undeniable facts. He doesn't just lose the argument, he becomes the story. Conservative media calls it one of the greatest takedowns in TV history. Clips of Trump's response flood social media, but something bigger is happening. The narrative around him is shifting. He's no longer just the former president trying to stay relevant. He's the man who walked into a hostile room and walked out untouchable. And that's when the invitations start pouring in. More interviews, bigger platforms, speaking offers, a book deal rumored in the works. People who dismissed him before, now they're paying attention. And Julian, for the first time in his career, Julian Reed isn't setting the conversation. He is the conversation. His show's ratings spike, but not in a good way. People are watching, waiting for him to mess up again. The network is getting nervous. Executives schedule a reputation strategy meeting. A senior producer, one of his biggest supporters, steps down. It's not an official punishment, But everyone sees the writing on the wall. Julian Reed is damaged goods. And Trump, he just cemented himself as a force in politics. But the real lesson? That's coming up next. Some moments fade within hours. This one didn't. Days passed, but the clip kept circulating. It wasn't just about a debate. It was about something deeper. People on both sides of the political spectrum took notice. Some saw it as a warning. Never underestimate your opponent. Others saw it as proof that authenticity beats performance. But one thing was undeniable. This wasn't just a viral moment, it was a shift. Julian Reed had built his career on mockery, control, and scripted takedowns. He never debated in good faith. He humiliated. That worked until it didn't. His loss wasn't just about a single conversation. It was about the illusion breaking. People saw it happen in real time. They watched someone who always had the upper hand lose it completely, and once that happens, the spell is broken. Donald Trump didn't win because he yelled louder. He didn't win because he out-insulted Julian. He won because he never flinched. He didn't defend himself desperately. He didn't let the room decide how he should react. He stayed calm. He called out the game Julian was playing, and in doing so, he made Julian the one on defense. That's what made it powerful. Julian Reed's career isn't over, but it's changed. The confidence he once carried won't hit the same. His audience saw him struggle. His critics saw him exposed. And Trump, this wasn't just a viral moment. It was a career-defining one. A moment that made people pay attention. A moment that turned mockery into a movement. Here's the truth. We all face moments like this. Maybe not on live TV, maybe not with millions watching, but in our own way, we all get tested. We all get put in situations where someone tries to belittle us, where someone expects us to fold. And in those moments, the way you handle yourself changes everything. Do you let them define you, or do you take control of the moment? That's the real lesson here. What do you think? Was this a strategic takedown by Trump, or was it just pure confidence in action? And what do you think this says about modern media? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe, because trust me, there's more to uncover.